Hey everybody, I'm Finn McKenty. I'm the head of the music and audio channel here on CreativeLive.com. If you are new to CreativeLive, we are the world's best online classroom for learning how to make music. So anything from songwriting to mixing to engineering, this is the place to learn it. We've got Jess and John here from the Somerset to talk about the Bandhappy Masterclass they're doing every day on Van's Warped Tour. If you want to buy a ticket for that, go to bandhappy.com/warped tour, go find their class, and you can sign up for it. And we're going to be asking at the second half of this interview, we're going to be asking your questions. So if you want to ask Jess and John a question, look at the little blue, click on the little blue link below this video that says chat live with the class or whatever it says. Click on that. I will read it and ask it for them. You don't need to spam it and ask 50 times. You can ask once and I will see it. So with that out of the way, Jess, John, you're getting ready for Warped Tour right now. What else are you guys up to these days?
I'm just hanging out with my puppy. You know, that's usually all I do when I'm not on tour. So I don't know what John's been up to. He got a haircut, it looks like.
I got a haircut. We just got back from the UK about, what, like 3 weeks ago or something like that. We just finished our headliner, our legendary headliner there. Legendary is the name of our album, if you don't know that. I'm not just describing the tour, but yeah, just hanging at home and getting ready for Warped Tour.
Well, was the tour in fact legendary?
It was.
It was definitely. We finished it in London, and we played our biggest show we've ever played in London to date. It was like 800 people at Islington Academy, and it was one of those shows I just didn't want to walk off stage. It was just perfect. So
nice. Well, you know, I've been a fan of the band since, I don't know, 2009 or something like that, whenever Chelsea came out. So I've seen you guys have really come a long way in that last 5. Like I saw you guys on the Macy's parade, and I was like, what? The Somerset is like in the Macy's parade? This is crazy. So congratulations for as far as you've come in, you know, since then.
Thank you.
So I guess on that note, you know, you've leveled up a lot, maybe especially in the last year or so, I feel like, maybe 2 years. What would you go back in time and tell yourself as a musician, as a professional 5 years ago? You're like, Jess, John of 5 years ago, here's what you need to know.
Damn.
It's a great question.
I think I'd tell myself not to stress out so much about like such tiny little details. I feel like at the beginning I used to like freak out about like if someone on stage played something that wasn't exactly like what we had rehearsed or something, and I feel like I just felt like everyone in the crowd was like watching me so intensely. And I think as years have gone on, you just kind of realize it's really music's much of a bigger picture game, and it's just all about vibe. And like if everyone's, you know, feeling it, then everything's fine, and not to be so obsessive about tiny things.
I agree. I think it's definitely to be a little more relaxed. I think when I first started touring, especially, I was pretty, I would say I was a little more uptight. And I think you just kind of learn to just kind of be more laid back and more relaxed. And touring, I guess, also does that to you. You kind of just become a more relaxed person, just being on the road all the time and waking up in a new city every day. So yeah, I mean, I definitely would tell myself to be more relaxed and bring a cat on the road maybe.
Yeah, well, on that note, you know, I know a lot of people watching this probably have, you know, dreams of going on tour themselves. Give people a little bit, you know, I've been on tour with my friends' bands quite a bit. Maybe give people a little bit of an idea of like what they can expect. And you guys are probably on the road 9 months out of the year or something. What's that like on a day-to-day basis?
Well, when we first started out, it was a lot different, and you know, we started touring in 2008, and John had actually just gotten out of high school. We hopped in a van the day after he graduated from high school, and we were playing, you know, to sometimes 5 to 10 people a night. Sometimes we were only playing to the bartenders that worked at the actual venues. So yeah, I mean, you know, you stick with it and you progress, and you just, you know, we were having the best times of our lives even when we were only playing to, you know, 2 people a night. And so it, you know, it starts out a little slow, but you know, it obviously progresses, and as long as you stick with it and have a good attitude towards it, you know, you kind of step forward. So
I think you're asking. Sorry to ask the question. You're asking what like advice you give, like based on touring, like if you're just starting up touring again.
No, just kind of like, what's I guess
something to expect.
Yeah, like what to expect. Specifically a lot of waiting, for example.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. It's definitely unlike anything else. It's
not a vacation.
It's not exactly. It's not a vacation. I tell some of my friends who are like, "Oh, you've gotten to travel the whole world," which totally, and I'm so grateful for that. But there is a lot of. I mean, it is. You were there to play a show and stuff, so it's a lot of venues and a lot of hotels and a lot of gas stations. It's a lot of the in-between time is what I think you don't really expect when you're about to go on tour for the first time. And that was one thing that's interesting is all that downtime in between and just the kind of hurry up to wait kind of stuff, as Josh, our guitarist, says, just kind of go, 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 we got to get there. And then you wait for 3 hours. So for me, I think where I find like a lot of my enjoyment from touring now are those in-between moments. Those moments that at first I was kind of confused by, and I was like, wait, isn't it supposed to be like Spinal Tap? Like, isn't it supposed to be like a party all the time? And then you realize how important that downtime is, and it's really about the adventure, finding a new adventure every day, whether it's in the city you're in or if it's an off day, and just kind of getting, enjoying the time you have together with the band that's not, just work related, business related, and show related. Just, going and finding whether it's some shitty pizza place or going to like a zoo or something, or going checking out like a city, monument or something. It's kind of those in between moments are really what make tour enjoyable.
Cool. Well, can you maybe talk a little bit about how important it is to, you guys are musicians, of course, but you're also living like literally next to each other as much as brothers and sisters. So can you talk a little bit about like how important it is to, stay friends and not hate each other, and like how you manage to do that when you're stuck in a bus with each other so often?
I'll answer that question when I figure it out.
But you guys haven't had any lineup changes, have you?
No, we haven't actually. We've been the same lineup for 7 years. I mean, I think we kind of, me and my brother, our bass player, we kind of set the bar for as ugly as it can possibly get, like right at the beginning. So I think everything else, fight-wise on tour just kind of falls short of me and my brother. We're siblings, so we can say the meanest things to each other because we know at the end of the day, if one of us needs an organ or something, we're all the other one's got. But no, it's interesting. After 7 years, I feel like I know everyone in my band more than I know some of my extended family members. It really is. It's crazy.
I think we all know the boundaries as well because we have known each other for so long, and we are like brothers and sister. I'm their sister. I guess we just know, like, if you do get into a fight, how much space to give them and how much time they need to cool off, and then the next time you see each other, you're probably having a beer or something. You kind of get over it pretty quickly, and you're on the road together. You're a family, so it's literally like fighting with a sibling. You love them, but you hate them at that moment. But you still love them. So.
Right. Okay. Well, so let's talk a little bit about your Bandhappy masterclass you're going to be teaching on Warped Tour this year. Can you give people a little bit of a sneak preview on what you plan on covering in that class?
Yeah. We're all kind of like drafting up, I guess, what would you call it? I find trouble calling it a lesson plan because all of us kind of ended our academics like immediately after high school, but I guess you could call it that. I think interesting stuff we want to touch on is kind of like Jess was saying earlier, I hopped like straight in a van from high school. It wasn't like we built up some sort of following online, but a lot of our plan or how we saw the music industry, especially at that time, was we saw a lot of bands hopping into 15-passenger vans, and we're just like, yo, to make this work, we have to go out and we got to get in front of people physically and go show them, what we're doing. So I think what we want to cover in the class is just, for anyone who's interested in either working on tour or growing a band themselves, or their band is about to go on tour and they want to know what to expect, it's just kind of talking about those building blocks that that were so important to the foundation of our band. Kind of from, you know, it starts from a local show. It starts from, you know, local shows and us going and finding, you know, acts similar to us that were on tour, and we were flyering like physically. I know it sounds crazy to some kids a little younger than us, but like people used to, and you might still, but people used to actually flyer outside shows, like not just like tweet stuff. So kind of through this class, we want to retrace the history of kind of like, hey, this is like how we did it. We went from local shows and flyering outside local shows to playing locally to going regionally, you know, playing the states that were closest to you, to finally what it is actually like. And a lot of kids always ask, like, how do you book a tour? Like, what happens? And kind of, you know, going into our experiences from how a tour is booked now for us and how a tour was booked on our very first tours. So.
Well, Jess, I wanted to ask, are you going to be covering the same kind of stuff, or are you going to focus on drum stuff? I know you have an unusually high profile for a drummer in a band in your genre. So I'm curious, do you get a lot of demand for, you know, drum-specific stuff?
Yeah, you know, I'm actually going to be doing my own drum lessons on the side, but as far as our band lesson goes, I'm definitely going to focus more on I guess how our band started, and maybe like how we all came together, how I joined the band, and me and John and Steven started up, you know, when we were teenagers. And yeah, I guess we'll go from there. I do have, you know, what I'm doing on the side, but for the band stuff, I'm going to keep it. Maybe I'll tell stories of, you know, what it's like to be the only girl on the road, and some funny stories I've got of the boys maybe. So we'll see.
What's funny though, Jess, is I didn't know. I feel like in a local music scene, like, girls do come up to you at shows more than, like, it surprises me how many girls come up to you at shows and say, oh my God, I'm a drummer too. Like, I want to, like, you know, you're my inspiration, stuff like that. I'm like, where were all these girls, like, when we were starting? I don't remember, like, anyone drumming. You were, like, you know.
I was always the only girl drummer that I ever knew, especially at our school.
Exactly, and, like, the whole Arizona, like, Phoenix scene. So I think it is cool that so many girls come up, and even guys, but, like, it surprised me how many girls come up and they're just like, I drum too. So, yeah, like I said, yeah, maybe it's starting to grow. I hope so. It's awesome.
Yeah, well, Jess, you've been pretty serious about drums for a long time, right? I mean, isn't your dad a drummer or something?
Yeah, my dad is a drummer, and yeah, so he kind of forced me in a way to play drums because I wanted to play guitar. So, yeah, he got me into drums when I was like, I think I was 12 years old, and then me, John, and Steven started playing together, you know, in middle school, pretty short after that. So, yeah, so I've been playing for at least 12 years now, and I guess I could thank my dad for that.
Yo, hurry up, we're going to Nate's.
What was that?
Me? Yeah. Sorry, one of my friends is just being a loser right now.
Hey, it happens.
Yeah.
Well, before we get to the audience questions, which again, if you want to ask a question of these guys, just click on the little blue link below this video and click on the chat live with class participants, and I will see your question, I'll ask it. Jess, you had really encouraging parents. For anybody at home who is a parent with a child who wants to get into music, or a child with parents who maybe don't understand, what would you tell them about, you know, about what advice would you give to them for the kid that wants to have a career in music?
Sorry, you cut out for saying, what advice would I give the parents?
Yeah, what advice would you give for the parents that have a child that wants to get into music?
Well, I guess the only real advice I could really say is, as a parent, I would think the biggest goal in life is that you want your child to be happy and to live a happy life. And what more than to let them follow their dreams or their goals? If they want to be a musician or they want to be an actress, you know, whatever it be, I think as a parent, you should just be supportive of what your child wants to do. And although my parents were definitely hesitant to let me drop out of school to jump into a van with a bunch of boys, you know, they're very proud now and they're very happy now. And so I guess that's all I have to say is just, you know, so if your kid wants to do it, you should be supportive of it. So.
Yeah, and like working off what Jess said, like, first of all, I don't think I'm in any, I agree with everything Jess said, because my parents were so supportive throughout this whole thing. I feel weird giving advice as like a 23-year-old to a parent because I don't think I could ever imagine like what that's like. But you know, one thing I would like definitely like if a parent was somehow for some reason asking my advice, the music industry is not like American Idol. It's not like this like game show with like numbers and graphs that show like how popular your, you know, son or daughter is and what, you know, chances they have at being successful or whatever. It's not like that. It's a very abstract thing. I mean, we're chasing I don't think you know, art is not usually artists aren't usually known in the masses for making a lot of money or for being, you know, just super like instantaneously, you know, well known. I mean, some of the greatest artists, you know, some of the greatest artists of the last, you know, 100, 200 years died poor and not even known. So like, yeah, I know it's hard as a parent sometimes to not see like that normal, to not see that kind of chronological ladder, if you will, that is in the world of like academia or like chasing a normal job route. It's not there. It's much more abstract. And yeah, the music industry, it's not like I said, it's not like American Idol at all. So, so I mean, it's something it's something that'll take time and like it's patience. And if you're a parent, like my parents, luckily, you know, they were patient enough and they weren't really asking too many questions. They weren't kind of looking for instant results, instant success. It's something that takes a little time, and you know, most great things in this world do take a lot of time. So I guess that's my little bit of 2 cents I could give parents.
Good advice. Well, so I will move on to some audience questions here. From Snoozy Q, are you looking for a merch person? I'm guessing you do have a merch person, but for somebody who wants to get into that, how did you find your merch person, and what do you look for in somebody? What makes a good merch person?
Jess, again?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, we've gone through a few different, you know, people, friends that want to come on the road sometimes. Our current merch person is someone that we met through Warped Tour last year and was friends of our band. And yeah, I mean, if you want to get into it, you really do just kind of have to throw yourself into the music scene, maybe go to a couple shows and offer to help out, you know, the band, and maybe you have a friend that works for a band or something. You can offer to help them out. You know, you obviously kind of maybe have to start out for free at first and be like, hey, I'll help you, you know, load in some merch, and just kind of show them that you're responsible and that you're really there, that you really want to, that you're passionate about it, and that you're, you know, you're serious about it. Because there are definitely some people who just want to get on the road to get on the road and go out and have fun and drink and do that type of stuff. But if you're serious about a job and getting into it, you just have to show that responsibility.
Definitely. I think for merch or something behind the scenes that a lot of people don't understand, that it's like, all right, I got to be outgoing and kind of, you know, spontaneous and really draw a lot of people in. And that goes for band. Some bands want a merch guy who's going to be like on the table, like dancing and like, you know, trying to sell CDs to everyone who walks by. Some bands are more like, hey, just keep it chill. We're not really about that. But beyond just like the exterior of like how you see merch guys act, a big thing is numbers. And if you've worked in retail, I know that's like a huge one up on people. If you've like worked in retail and you understand, hey, I have this amount of this left, this amount of this, the last 5 shows, here's this trend, this shirt's not doing so well, this one is doing well. If this trend continues for 30 shows, I'm going to need a reorder at this time. You know, I should probably reorder, you know, and there's a whole thing that goes into it. It's like, okay, I'm on the West Coast, my merch company is on the East Coast. I need to look 2 weeks ahead of what I think is the next order I need to make, because, you know, I'm going to pay crazy rush shipping if I order this too late. And, you know, there's a lot of factors like that. But I think one thing that kids don't see is it's a number game, and it's a pretty simple number game, but it can be complex for your first time. So it's definitely something that is learned over time. But I think that's interesting. A lot of kids don't think about that at first. So it's kind of an interesting little bit of advice I can give people. Learn numbers, you know, be good at predicting what's selling and what's not, and order accordingly, and order on time.
It's a lot more than someone just saying, hey, I want that, and you handing it to them and taking their money.
Yeah, you're in charge of the whole stock. So
yeah.
So don't skip math class.
Math
Question from
class.
Lobi, which is something I'm interested in. How to combine relationships, family, and touring for a long time. And so where I'm headed with this is my friends who are on tour, who are in touring bands, I see them once every 4 months, and then they disappear for another like 3 or 4 months, and life goes on without them, and they're kind of off in their own little bubble. Like, you being on the other side of that, how do you maintain your like non-music relationships with friends and family and stuff?
I mean, it's definitely tough. It does take a lot of effort on our end, because I do think a lot of our friends think, when John was talking about the whole hurry up and wait thing earlier, I think our friends don't realize we have that much downtime, because we really do. And so our friends don't want to bother us, and our families don't want to bother us, or, our significant others. They kind of let us do our thing, and then we have to be the ones to kind of, get in contact with them or make sure that we keep the relationship up. So, I mean, it definitely goes both ways, but I definitely feel like on our end, we do have to try a little bit harder, because I think they do think we're a lot busier than we really are. And for a lot of my friends, we have the relationships where you just kind of pick up where you left off. And some people, do get a little bummed out when you don't keep in touch. But if you're good friends, you can usually pick up where you left off, and it seems like you weren't even gone. So,
totally.
Got a little bit of a different request here. There's a girl named Rachel in the chat room who's having brain surgery and can't go to Warped Tour this year. I bet she would appreciate it if you said best wishes and that you'll be thinking of her.
I know Rachel very well, and best of wishes to you, Rachel. I think we had a long discussion last time we were on the East Coast. So yeah, definitely. I know everything that's going on there. So what's up, Rachel?
We all wish you the best.
Cool.
On behalf of all of the Somerset, we wish you the best.
And we do too. A couple questions about your, detailed questions about your classes. So can you talk a little bit, Rengar wants to know, can you talk about the difference between your individual session and the group session, and kind of why would someone want to do one versus the other, or both?
Well, I think, specifically for me, my individual classes are just solely focused on drumming and drums, and I'm just going to be doing that. But for the band stuff, I think we really want to kind of engage with our fans and let them know, from day one, how our band started, how we started getting in the music industry, like how John was talking about, how we jumped into a van after he got out of high school. And we want to take questions and tell stories, fun stories from the road. We want to focus on our band and our experiences we've had as a band. And as far as I guess our individual classes are more focused on our instrument, or for John, he's going to be doing songwriting classes. So
exactly, yeah. The band one's more the big picture, and then I guess between drums and songwriting, it's just the little details are what our classes are. So
yeah.
But even if you're not a drummer or if you're not a guitarist, I would encourage you to check out both of them, because you can actually learn a lot about your instrument from people who play other instruments. So I would encourage you to check them all out if you're a fan in Somerset. Question from someone whose name I can't read, Kara Chieko. For someone who is going to school for music business, would going to school for management really attract the band to hiring them for road management? So I guess the question there is, part of being a band is assembling the right team, the people you can trust, you can count on. How do you decide whether you can trust somebody enough to take a chance on them, and do you care where they went to school?
Yeah, we don't. Well, see, it's an interesting, definitely a really good question, and something that's asked a lot. I don't know any tour managers personally who we haven't found any through a school. It's usually how business works, and in many forms of business, it's just people who know people, and
experience.
It's just experience, and it's all about your network. And I think they teach you that in any type of business. It's all about kind of who you know, and you use your contacts to your advantage. So I definitely think that's an attractive quality, especially for maybe a management firm, a bigger management firm, or maybe an agency. you know, like some of the big agencies, you know, like the William Morris, Paradigm, those agencies might, you know, I'm sure those people take in, you know, college graduates, you know, from, you know, internships up, and then that could be a really great way to make a connection with this agent of this group, and maybe you start in a management side or working in an office. But personally, I don't know anyone who came into tour managing from college, but I'm sure they do. I know there's some. Our tour managers talked about some bigger, almost like businesses that are full of like a group of tour managers that they represent a bunch of them, and that might be a way. But I don't really have any experience.
I'm sure there's other bands out there that do
have them, yeah.
But as far as our band goes, like we really just look at the experience that our crew members have had in the past, and you know, take recommendations from other bands that have, you know, given us you know, resumes or whatever, and I think mostly the experience that we look at.
It's all about the resume.
Yeah, pretty much.
One last question from Dimitri Love. What do bands really look forward to in a venue? Because I want to create a music venue in my hometown. So somebody's booking a band, what can they do, especially if it sounds like this is going to be like kind of more a local DIY kind of thing? What can they do at that level to make the band have a really good experience?
Well, hospitality is something I think that's big. Like being able to have like, if you have a venue, like just being able to set aside that area, that one little area that the band can relax in, you know, with like a fridge and, you know, a few couches and stuff like that. Because when a band's, especially if you're doing a smaller venue and you're having a lot of bands in vans, like you just look forward to getting out of the van and just at least being able to sit down somewhere. So I think hospitality is a big thing that I'd look for.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I think that's the biggest thing we usually look for, is just having a nice place to relax before, you know, after you get out of the van, and then before you have to play. It's just really nice to have a nice little area for yourself and to hang out in. So. And then,
you know, and then also make sure the stage is decent enough sized. Pretty much, I feel like music venues, making a venue is just kind of common sense. And that might be me being too hard on some people, because there's venues everywhere across the country we've been in where you're like, what were you thinking? Like, there's like this is like enough room for like one dude to sit on stage. There's no green room. Like, is there even bathrooms for like fans to go in? Like, but it's pretty much common sense. But, you know, if you're asking from a band perspective, hospitality goes a long way. And, you know, as long as the stage is a decent size.
All right, well, that's about it for us. If you want a chance to talk more about this stuff with these guys, then go to bandhappy.com/warp tour and buy a ticket for either their group class or the individual classes that they'll be doing every day with Bandhappy on Vans Warp Tour. Jess and everybody at the Somerset, thank you so much for joining us, and that's a wrap.
Thanks.
Thanks.